Hello, hello, welcome, 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 gorgeous souls. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We are live. Hopefully, Mercury retrograde is not going to play any tricks. If it does, please be patient. I'm so excited to be here with you today with the beautiful, talented, worldwide renowned Nareen Stevens. So, Nareen, welcome, 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 welcome. I'm going to give a brief introduction and then I'm going to pass the floor on to you. So, Nareen, you become an energy healing practitioner. You discovered the power of sound and vibrational healing. And then I know you traveled the world and then you discover shamanism. And now you're bringing all of your beautiful gifts. And I know you do so much more than that. You can share as much as little as you want. And you brought everything back to New Zealand. Wonderful, wonderful country. So Nareen, I'm going to pass it on to you. And I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself with our audience here and tell us maybe something that is not in your bio that will really get us curious.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for having me, Alex. This is really exciting. So I'm actually in New Zealand at the moment, sort of on the other side of the world from you. So it's 9 o'clock at night here. So, it's going to be all interesting, I know. I actually, like a lot of people, I sort of had left school and I ended up starting as a florist, actually, sort of like getting all involved with the flowers and things like that. But later on, as I sort of like developed and aged and started to experience things, I ended up doing a lot of work in bereavement care. So bereavement and loss, and there was a really profound experience seeing people at these raw emotions, seeing them having to recover and sort of progress from what had happened. And one of the things that I'd actually found during that time is that a lot of past hurts and a lot of past losses would actually rear their head, sort of unresolved sort of issues. So that was sort of my first foray into actually getting involved in the care of other people. And then I sort of wandered around a little bit in various jobs. My children were growing. And then as I sort of had a bit more time to myself, my own sort of abilities, those instincts that you get, they started to become more sort of powerful, I suppose, like stronger. But I kind of needed to understand where it was all coming from and what I could actually, do, how this was going to benefit my life and hopefully, others. So I started doing some energy work. I studied to do energy healing, but it was the sound and vibration that actually really sort of lured me. When you hear the sound of things and you feel it, and music moves people, it creates a mood, it touches you, it triggers memories. And I just found the whole powerful, the sound and the vibration and the shaking everything up. And that was really fascinating for me. But it was while I was actually doing some of that work that other experiences started happening when I was with clients. I'd sense an energy had come in either to help me or to help the client, and so things started to get different layers and it became more meaningful, and I was sort of downloading little messages and sharing things with my clients. So during a period when I actually had the good fortune to go to Canada, because I've got a couple of siblings that live there, my plan actually was to spend some time with the First Nationals over there so I could develop a more understanding of vibration and sound with rain dances and a lot of the the music that the American Indians do. But I actually landed there in the middle of winter and there was nothing going on at all. So I sort of had, like a lot of people, I had a whisper of shamanism, but I actually wasn't really sure what it really was, to be honest, or how I was going to go about studying it. So I sort of like got on the old Google and looked around, and I came across Scott Silverstone. with shamanic spirit medicine. And I could sort of like resonate with him. And so I started on the fundamentals course. Then I went into the intermediate course. Then I went into the advanced course. And then
That's how we met. That's how we met.
I just kept on progressing further and further, and because it was having such an impact on my own life, and I was starting to understand, as a holistic human being, how the emotions and the spirit and the soul and everything all just, gets interconnected. So I then just started to develop a greater understanding and awareness of shamanism.
My rain dance stick just moved. It wants to be in the conversation, but
there we go.
So Nareen, before we ask you a little bit more about shamanism, because I entitled this conversation "Secret from Shaman," I do want to know if you're watching. Thank you for those of you watching live. I'd love to see where you're tuning in from, because I'm on StreamYard and I don't see your names. I don't see where you're tuning in from. So just pop it in the chat, your name, where you're tuning in from. I see thumbs up, fabulous. And whether you know what shamanism is, or what do you think it is? And then we're going to ask the beautiful Nareen to say, what is shamanism, Nareen? And, what really happened? I know you said things start to trickle, but when did you really feel that call of, yes, I want to do this?
I think it was as we sort of going into the intermediate class, and we were really learning about power animals and the medicine of nature. That's when I actually really started to get a handle on from my perspective, what shamanism is. I look at it as a philosophy of life, the same as Buddhism. It's a way of being, it's not just doing, it's not just feeling, it's being. And that means being connected with your own experiences, being connected with the impact that it's had on you, connected with nature, understanding the wind, looking at the sun, feeling the earth, just the interconnectedness that sort of came with shamanism. And it's about definitely trying to be the best for you, because that's the most important thing. And from that, it trickles out to the way you treat other people and the way you handle things in life. And so that's how I sort of like came to a really good understanding of shamanism, what I think it is.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're also going to look, I know there are many people that are either thinking about launching their business, already launched their business. Could you tell us, did you have your business already, or the shamanism was that last push to say, okay, you got to get out there and I'm going to help you do that in a way that maybe no other practices could have helped you?
I had started doing sound and vibration. I'd studied in Chiang Mai, and I'd actually got all my bowls from Nepal, and so I had a very nice sort of like Eastern connection to because I was doing Tibetan singing bowls and gongs. So I'd already started on some sound and vibrational, healing and work when I came back to New Zealand, when I brought it back to New Zealand. But I think as I developed more with shamanism and understanding it, I actually realized that by getting myself into good alignment, like understanding what it is that I really, really wanted to do, then I had to manifest it into my reality. So I had to bring it down from my thoughts, down from a spirit, and put it into the physical world. And that's actually what really helped me become focused. It's like, look, if you want to have a big house and you want to have the security that comes with it, and that's coming from your root chakra, right? That sense of security, the roof over your head, the stability. If that is what you want in life to make you content, to help your security, then you can't go around driving in a combi van, busking on the side of the streets, just earning enough money for your lunch. You can't want one thing here but not do what is required to make it happen. And I think, what shamanism does, it actually addresses some of the blockages, some of the negativity that you've held. It can relieve some of the pain. It can fix up some of those old agreements that have been made that have not served you any purpose. And it can help bring you into focus and alignment. And that's where you get your clear messages. That's how your business can grow, because you can be sure that what you're wanting is what you are working towards. And therefore, you're going to get the clarity and the decision making, and everything is going to follow along with that when you start your own business.
Beautiful, beautiful. So for those that maybe are familiar with The Secret and Think Positive, and these days it's all about mindset, right? And I always, well, I have my views, I'm not going to share them here, but what are your views in why is shamanism so different and, let's say, much more powerful than the mindset, the positive thinking, the affirmation, that people they know about affirmations and maybe works a little bit for them, and then boom, they get back to the initial situation? What would you say shamanism is different from that by experience?
Well, one of the things, Alex, was when we were in going through the advanced class, I remember Scott, who's our shaman teacher, actually saying to us, do you all know the difference between a soul and spirit? And I distinctly remember there was this long pause in our class. Now, we were already operating as practitioners in various forms, because most of us, we don't just do shamanism. We've got other things going on, with yoga or meditation, or, like me, sound or Reiki or whatever. And so, I think when he actually asked the question, the difference between the soul and the spirit, and we had to seriously think about that, and we actually couldn't answer him. So he gave us the answer, and that was that your soul is your DNA. It's what's the genetics that you've got from your parents. It is your personality type, and it is a culmination of your experiences and nature and nurture and genetics. So your soul is all of that physical, personal, characteristic stuff. Your spirit is actually what has the connection out of this world. God, source, whoever it is that you want it to be, nature. I mean, who better source than nature? And so there was a fundamental difference between the soul and the spirit. And, it's the impact that can leave, the pain that can leave. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling. The pain that can stay with you. Got it. It's the pain that stays with you, that impacts you, that makes some changes to your decisions and how you make your life. And so, shamanism actually is a really holistic view of the personality, and also just a connection to the earth itself, because a lot of the other modalities don't teach you that vital connection, because that's where it comes from. I know with sound and vibration, there's a lot of biology involved in that, because every living thing has a vibration. And that's why, once the earth, if it's flooded or if it's ravaged by fire, she always manages to come back and rebirth herself. And that's through the vibration. But the shamanism was actually all of it, all bits of it. And that's how I found it so encompassing. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I'm going to check the chat again to see. So we have Rose from South England, also studied with Scott, Christy from New Zealand. And we have somebody saying, I'm in Melbourne and I'm doing the intermediate course with Scott at the present time, but we don't know what that is. So please put your name in the chat. If you have your own business or you're thinking of going big with your business, put it in the chat as well. We have Yvonne from London. Yes, yes, yes. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in. If you're watching the replay, maybe post a question in the chat and hashtag Nareen and Alex so we know to come back and answer your question. Now, while we stay in personal experience, I know that I was so, I adore you already, Nareen, but when I read that when I heard you saying, oh, and I did fencing when I was younger, and I did skydiving, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Possible. And I wanted to ask you, from those days, the skydiving and the fencing, it's quite a courageous activities, I would say. What did you take from those days to your business, to be a business owner, to be an international business owner? Because you traveled the world, you studied internationally. What did you take from those fencing and skydiving that really supports now?
You have to test yourself. You really have to test yourself. You have to give it a go. There's no other way. A more recent example was that last season I actually purchased a kayak, and I actually live on the lake of Rotorua. I live on the edges of it, and I don't actually have a good sense of direction, so I sort of had mistimed an adventure that I was going to take. I had actually planned on kayaking from one side of the lake to go and see my neighbour on the other side of the lake, which I thought sounded like a really, really good idea. I had in my mind that it was probably going to take me an hour and a half.
Oh, God.
And it was a beautiful day, and the water was calm and the sun was shining, and so I started kayaking. I thought, this is really nice. Lovely. Went past the airport, saw the ducks, the birds. I got over to where my neighbour was, and I beached my kayak, and I went up and I had a cup of tea with her, which was really nice. She's an elderly lady, so I go up regularly. And I looked at the clock on her wall and I went, is that really the time? And she said, yes. And I realised I'd been paddling for 3 hours. So then I actually realised I had to paddle back, right? So now I'm going, my round trip of 3 hours had probably turned into a 6-hour trip. So I got back on the kayak, and again, it was still really nice, and it was really, really calm, and it was lovely. And I thought, no, I can do this, until about halfway into the trip back, and the wind came up.
Oh, gosh.
And I was paddling and I wasn't going anywhere, and I was digging deep. Then I was going, bear is my power animal. Bear is my power animal. I know I can do this. I can do it. I can do it. It took me 4 hours to get back. I was paddling there, bar a half-hour break and a cup of tea, for 7 hours. I managed to drag myself into the inside. I couldn't even lift up a cup for a cup of tea. I was like going down into the saucer like that. But what it taught me then was that I would never in a million years have thought I would have been able to paddle for 7 hours. I would never have thought I could do it. But I did, much to my surprise. And so I tested something, and the trip didn't quite go the way I thought it was going to. But it ended up being a really good story and a really good experience. And every time I drive past that lake, I go, whoa, man, you're pretty cool.
So beautiful.
Yeah. So you do have to try. You have to let the ideas percolate in your head, and you have to give it a try. But you also need to make sure that you start off with some really good expertise, because while we are really well educated and trained in what we do, bookkeeping or taxes and those sorts of things aren't really our forte. So get the expert advice that you need and test yourself. Give it a go. You'll be surprised. Yeah.
And again, just to showcase the power of shamanism, if you think about Nareen that didn't know shamanism in that same experience, because you say you called on bear, which is your power animal. Yeah. How would that trip be different? Do you think you would have even made it to the shore without the power of the support of your power animal?
I think I might have pulled to shore a lot earlier. and sat on the shore with my kayak and figured out how I was going to walk all the way home and what I was going to do with it. That's probably what I would have done. But shamanism, it gave me the ability to dig a little bit deeper. I just thought, no, I'm not alone here. I'm not. I've got the wind and I've got the sun and I've got Bear with me and I know that I can do this. And I think it gives you an inner strength. You sort of start to know yourself a little bit better, and you go, okay, I can do this. And if I can't, I can get myself out of it somehow. So yeah, there's an inner strength that comes with knowing a bit more about yourself and how to draw on the strength when you need it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I don't see in the chat if many of you already have your business set up, but if you were to give an advice to somebody who just maybe need a little bit of encouragement or just starting their business, what would you tell them?
Ooh. I think having your own goal, I think you need to write down your mission statement. What is it that you want to achieve? Because, we want to help. Most of us go into this because we want to help in some way, but there also has to be something in it for you. It's not an altruistic sort of lifestyle. What we're trying to do is do what we find fulfilling, earn a living out of it, and fill ourselves up with wonderful, interesting things along the way. I do keep coming back to the thing that Scott was saying was really, really important, and that's being in alignment. That is understanding what your core purpose is. That is, knowing yourself well enough to know your weaknesses and your strengths. And look, we've all had some failures. We've put events together, or we've had wonderful guest speakers or whatever, and you might have one person turn up or no people turn up, and that can be really disheartening. But you just go, no, I'm still sticking to what I want to do. I know that this is the right path, and I'll just keep on going until somebody tells me not to.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Narine, would you agree? I always say healers needs healer. Oh. How do you feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, you've got to have friends, right? And if you can have friends that are also peers, so that you can not only throw out ideas and wrestle with some of the things that happen in your life. Yeah, healers definitely need healers, because we go through the same ups and downs. We can get depressed, we get heartbroken, we get hurt, we get angry. One of the fundamental differences for us, though, is that we have actually got the skills to help our own recovery, and we're really fortunate that we've got fabulous people around us, which means that they can help us too, because that's what it's about. It's about being connected. There have been many times when, going through this pandemic, being locked down, I've lain on the couch and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to me. But then I'm really fortunate in that I can contact, one of my fabulous healing friends who not only gives me the understanding, but that just can keep on talking me through and reminding me that I know how to do what I've got to do.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, we need exactly the same care as everybody else.
Beautiful. So I'm going to look at the question. So somebody's saying, Narine, I'm going to read two questions and then you can align your thoughts. So one person said, how did you start practicing as in shamanism after the course? And Yvonne says, how to know about the power animals? How do you find out who's your power animal is?
Oh, okay. So the first question was, how did I
start practicing as a shaman after the course?
Right. Well, obviously, when most of us work from home, so we don't have a shop front. So that's where social media is really quite important. I set up a website after that. Before, I'd just been operating with a Facebook page, but I was doing a lot of meditations, sessions around the area, and I was also doing land and vibrational healing, for water and pieces of land that were around here. But it was really educating, and that was the hard part. I actually presumed, coming from New Zealand and being mixed race, I presumed that there would be a very easy crossover, because Indigenous cultures are very connected to the land and the water and the trees and the birds and the bees. But it was a lot more difficult than I anticipated. So while I would go off and do a meditation session at a group. After that, I would then say, look, I have been studying shamanism, and I would explain then what it was about, because I think that's one of the things that we've got to get out there, explain shamanism to people so they really do understand it. And that's how I did it, little bit by little bit, talked about it. When I was actually, either had a client or whatever, and there was, I think someone did come to me, and I actually mixed up the session. I started to sort of merge shamanism in with my own modality. So I would actually do maybe a half hour of a massage, and then I would actually finish off with a journey. So I was starting to sort of like move it in slowly while I was trying to get people accustomed to it. So when we say a journey, what it really is, I sort of liken it more to the Aboriginal dream time, Australian Aboriginal. So with a journey, it's about just getting your mind into a really nice, comfortable space. And that's where the drumming comes in, because it's quite hypnotic. And then through a process that we're taught, so we're taught through guided meditation to start with, but we're taught how to go down into the nature world and how to actually meet your power animal. And it's very, very powerful. And so many people would say, oh my gosh, I've always loved butterflies, and I didn't realize now that that's because butterfly was my power animal. And you start to see it throughout in your life. You'll find that, you've always got cards with teddy bears on it, or there's a thread that takes you there once you're introduced to your power animal. I always get my clients to then read up about the biology. What's the diet of that animal? What sort of parent are they? Because you'll often find that there are, correlations in your sort of physical world. So you only need to learn how to journey once, and then you just need to practice it. And you have to practice everything, whether you're doing, you're wanting to get your third eye stronger. It's like a muscle, Intuitive work is the same as a physical work, that you've got to exercise it, you've got to get it stronger, you've got to keep on using it so that it actually becomes strong, and you can sort of like rely on it greater.
Beautiful, beautiful. So education is a very important part of it. And I get the same question, a lot of time I advertise an event, or even my title is Shamanic Priestess, and people say, people don't know what it is. So if you want to start this business, education, what is shamanism is super important. And that's what drawn to me to start. This is a series, by the way, Narine, you're the first one. I'm probably going to interview 2 more shamans, because I want to ask them as well, how do they see shamanism, so that people can start to learn it. And there is sometimes a little bit of fear associated with what we don't understand, what we don't know, this idea that we travel to the spirit world. And some people say this is pure imagination and you must be TikTok, right? Or some other might be quite fearful, because there are things that happen in the spirit world that might not be so comfortable. So I always say, learn from the best. And I have to say, Scott, it really is one of the best. Big shout out to him. And be careful out there. Don't improvise, taking a book, learning to do a journey, and then you don't know what happens. Would you agree, Narine? Not to improvise.
Oh, absolutely. There is a real power in what we do. And that's why it's very important to ensure. And I I've make this very clear on my own website or wherever I'm speaking to anybody. You need to ensure that the person you are entrusting yourself to is ethical and trained and has your best interests at heart. So, before you venture on any form of therapy with any of us, you should do your homework and make sure that the person that you're going to see has actually been well trained, because it is a very, very powerful form of therapy. It's very powerful. And, I think it's interesting that people have got a fear about it, because then, again, that just proves how powerful they think it really is, and I think, when you start realizing that some of the events, the trauma that you've felt, that you hang on to it. And, one of the classic signs of is when someone says to you, I have never been the same since. I have never been the same since I had the car accident. I have never been the same since I had cancer. I've never been the same since my marriage broke up. And from our perspective, that says that a part of you has actually stayed with that event. So you're trying to operate, on not on all cylinders there. And that's sort of like, especially when it's a deeply emotional, event that's happened to you, it then colours the way you will deal with future events. Colours the way you deal with relationships. And I think, it's like we were talking about the wind earlier. Some of us become some people can become very moody. Some people can become very clear. We can't see the wind. We can only see the effects of the wind. And that's, I think, is the same with, spiritual pain. You can't see it, but we can see the effects of it. And so, when shamanism was part of the village life, then people were actually being treated on a regular basis. So it wasn't like now where, we'll have an event and we'll go there, and then away we go. And then something else tops up and something else goes on, and it piles and piles and piles. Whereas, when shamans were just a part of everyday life, you were able to get that repair work done on a regular basis, whereas it's not like that now. So for us, we're dealing with, events that have happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, and trying to sift through all of that too. So very powerful, but very important to make sure that you've got the right people.
Beautiful. And also one thing that I often say is, trauma doesn't need to look big to have an important impact in your life. So I always suggest, if you've never done a shamanic session in your life, do one and do it regularly, even if there's no apparent trauma. It's like, I like to spring clean my house at least 3 times a year, right? Or I like to declutter at least 3 times a year. I brush my teeth every day, twice, 3 times a day. So it's the same with that vibrational healing, that shamanic healing, whatever type of healing, but do some healing on a regular basis. And it could be once a year, it could be twice a year, it could be once a month, even if you don't see that big shock and trauma, because trust me, like Nareen said, we all been affected by something and we don't know what it is. And we don't really associate it. Oh, mom told me not to eat chocolate out of a jar, and that was traumatic for me. Not for my sibling maybe, but right now, I'm binge eating all the time. Or I have friends that say, when I open a pot of Nutella, I cannot stop. Well, it's not a big trauma, but wouldn't it be nicer if you could, just have that healing done and just live life in another way? So, we have Elena joining from Cyprus. So don't wait for what I'm saying is, don't wait for the big crash, the big burnout. Just find a modality, find somebody that supports you, and have a healing session. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And bear in mind too that, natural healing is permanent healing. It's permanent recovery. So, you're not going to have one session and, the heavens are going to open and we're all going to be, singing Happy Side of the Street. But it's shifting you. It's making changes. It's shifting your biology. It's shifting your psychology. It's shifting the way you emote. It's making those changes, getting you into alignment, which is what we were talking about in the beginning. So, it's not like going to the doctors and you're having trouble sleeping and then you get to take a tablet and you sleep that night. But the changes are long lasting and they are effective because they're actually going to, address some of the issues that have been niggling away at you that you haven't even really known what they're going to do. So I think there's a movement out there now. I think with everything that we've been gone through, I think people are wanting to have a greater control over their self-management, management of their health. A lot of us sort of tend to go to a hairdresser more than we actually go for healing. And it used to be that it was a natural part of life. And I think one of the perspectives for me is that there's quite a new age take on it. And for me, I think in some ways it's become a little bit too mystical, and that it looks like it's not available to the average person. And yet, we're also, as healers, we're also incredibly individual and really different too. And you will find someone out there that is right for you. But don't just not do it. Like, we had to learn, we had to study, we had to teach each other, we had to practice on each other, and we had to sort ourselves out all as we were doing this training process. It's just incredibly difficult to do, but it's incredibly powerful.
Beautiful. And I always want to talk about alignment as well for a minute, because I say in my lives, alignment is not what you think it is. Alignment is not, first I'm going to train, then I get my certificate, then I build a website, then I'm going to start to advertise. That's not what it is, right? It doesn't work that way.
That's a building plan. That's not getting into alignment. Yeah, that's a building plan.
So we're going to leave it there with alignment. We're going to let you reflect on this. Elena, who joined us from Cyprus, says, can power animals be birds? I often see auks and kingfishers around me.
Oh, absolutely. The power animals that are birds, so that's hawks, eagles. The kingfisher actually in biblical times was the first bird that actually flew out from Noah's Ark after the rains had stopped. And so the kingfisher saw the first sunrise, against the sky, and that's why kingfisher has the colours. It's got the colours of the sunset in the sky. So birds, are very, very powerful, because when it comes to the birds, it's about getting you to, have a long-term view of something, have a big picture view of it, soar to new heights, travel distances, because birds have got amazing sight and amazing hearing. So absolutely. Then you've got, you've got your albatrosses, which are to do with the sea and the hunting and the fishing. And, you've got the owls, which again is another part of the bird family, which is all about wisdom and sensuality and getting in touch with that part of you. So, birds are very, very powerful, very powerful.
And Yvonne is saying cats?
We acknowledge that domestic animals bring a tremendous amount of pleasure and love and support. If you're going to align a domestic pet with a shamanic pet, then what you would do with the cat is probably go panther, tiger, leopard, one of those feline sort of creatures. The same with the dog. Again, domestic pets have a fabulous place in life and are wonderful for your health and your well-being. But when it comes to the shamanic power animals, the dog, you'd then go for the wolf.
I remember reading about this because the pets have been a little bit too much domesticated. So they lost, in a sense, that strong connection with the spirit world. But again, they're wonderful for your well-being. They're wonderful for bringing you messages. It's just like you said, if from a shamanic perspective, you would go to the other version. I always think about, you must have seen that meme where you see a ginger cat looking in a mirror and he sees the lion. So that's exactly what it is, right? I always smile at that. Nareen, so if you have any question, please feel free to put it in the chat. So I want to ask you, because each healer is unique, even though we study with the same teacher, we might know the same modalities, but we attract different type of people. So what kind of clients do you tend to attract? Who are the people that really come to you?
That's really interesting, because there's sort of like a mixture of earthy people, what I call sort of like me, an earthbound person, like very in touch with grass and trees and water, but are also spiritual type people who are, have got a connection, atua we call God here, so who've got a connection with God and with the source. And we have Papatuanuku, which is the mother of our earth, and Rangi, which is the father of our sky. So we've actually got a very sort of spiritual connection to our surroundings. I get mainly people who have got some sort of like pain, because that's what they usually, with sound and vibration, they're aware that there's some sort of, you can actually push something into somebody, and that's the vibration. And I was really fortunate. I trained to do massage with Tibetan singing bowls, and not a lot of people know how to do that, but it's actually really about putting that vibration, pushing it right down deep into the body. So I get people who have got ailments. I have spent time with people who have got cancer. And when I'm working with a cancer client, it's really about me getting them into the most comfortable position, getting their body operating at the maximum ability, getting their mind all relaxed, getting their chakras, all the energy discs operating as well as possible, so that they can actually manage the treatment a lot better and absorb it, and because their body's actually able to take a little bit more of it. So I do quite a bit of that, and I really am quite enjoying some of the group meditation sessions I've been doing just recently, because once I've finished the meditation and I wait for everyone to start coming back, because everybody goes to sleep, then that's when the korero, which is what we say, the talking and the sharing, starts at the end of the session. Someone will ask me, gee, I had a pain in my arm, what does that mean? Or, I saw a lot of colours, or whatever. So, there's those sessions where you can actually start sort of like building bridges and communicating a little bit more, and that's really, really great.
Beautiful. So, Nareen, we're going to put it in the chat later on, but how do people reach you?
I have a Facebook page, Sound and Shamanism. I have a website, which is soundandshamanism.com, and I can be accessed via private message. I'm on WhatsApp, email.
So we're going to give you those details in the chat if you're interested to connect with Nareen. And I want to ask you before, so any more questions, please put it in the chat before we wrap up. Any plans for the future that you can share with us? And then I'll bring in my...
Well, it's funny you should ask that, Alex.
So full disclosure, when I got this, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, right? So, but
beautiful.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Let's share something amazing.
Okay. So, look, it was about 3 years ago, this germinating idea started in my head. And because I'd done a meditation in we've got a forest here, the Redwood Forest, And there was me, RJ, who I trained with, who also did Tibetan bowls. And then I was playing with two other guys who played the didgeridoo. And we thought we'd go into the forest and we'll play to the trees and the flowers and, and we actually had like 140 people turn up, and some of them had actually driven down from Auckland, which is about a 3-hour drive from us. So we were quite amazed. And from there, we were asked to go and do a healing session on some land out there with some of the beautiful creeks and everything. And then I just started thinking about it. If we could just have a wonderful sound and vibration healing session around the lake. So the lake that I live in is connected to 14 other lakes. And, lake water has memory, so it's been absorbing a lot of the upset and everything. So I sort of started putting some feelers out to the other sound and vibrational healers I know, and I'm including drummers, shamanic drummers, didgeridoos and crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls and gongs and all this. So I actually put a submission into their tribal council last year to see if we could actually host a sound healing ceremony around the shores of Lake Rotorua, which is in a volcanic basin. So I've actually got 100 healers who have already committed to it, and I'm probably going to be able to get in another couple. So the plan is for us to have a wellness weekend as well, but that at the end of next year, I'm hoping that we will actually have nearly 200 sound healers just blasting the volcanic basin with all sorts of vibrations and love and intention and gratitude. So that's what I'm working on. It's been living in my head for 3 years. So I've said to Scott, I hope I live long enough to see it through. Because I think it would be a really, really wonderful experience. And I think what I like about it is that it's tangible. It will be a free meditation, so everyone will be able to come and sit with the healers and absorb it, and we can just sort of be in the love together and just feel it and share something that's really, really important. And so I'm just hoping that I'm going to stay in alignment, and I'm going to say it will come true. It will, because I'm going to put it up there.
Beautiful. It will come true. And also, can you imagine, we talk a lot about our oceans and our polluted air. Can you imagine if this could be an inspiration to start doing this for every, I want to say, piece of water that we have? How powerful would that be?
Well, even at sacred sites, I mean, how wonderful would it be for us to surround Uluru? I mean, obviously, I know that there are, tribal management issues. There are with any Indigenous, land. But there are so many wonderful sacred sites around this world. Could we not, send the vibrations up to the heavens and gratitude and love and wonderful intentions, and that people can actually see and feel what we do, and hopefully we'll start a collective. So I'm amazing. I'm amazing, but I've been amazed at the fabulous support that that I've got, because when you've got something rolling around in your head for so long and you just go, I can't take it anymore, get it out of me, and then someone goes, no, it's a really good idea, it's good. And this is what we were talking about before. You start off with an idea, and then you start voicing it and sharing it with your friends and people that you want to get some advice from. And so it's coming down from spirit, and you're putting the words out into matter, and then people are going, yeah, that's a really good idea. And slowly, you just start to bring it actually into your own physical world. So that's what I'm planning on.
Beautiful. So Noreen, before we say goodbye, could you share a little bit about this instrument?
The didgeridoo.
What do you say about that?
Oh, well, first of all, there are a lot of different types of didgeridoos that are used for different purposes. But the didgeridoo is a very, very, it's an earthbound instrument. It's been around for a couple of thousand years. That's been used by the Aboriginal people of Australia. And it actually pumps that vibration right down through and into the ground or wherever you're aiming it, So didgeridoo healers will actually do it on your body as well. So as the body's scanning you, you know, what happens is that the didgeridoo, it picks up the changes in the vibrations, so, and the sound, and so then they can actually suck or blow the blockage in you right out of your system. It takes absolute years. It takes about 3 to 6 months before didgeridoo players can even sort of start to manage their breath, because the control is absolutely incredible. But it's the most powerful tool and one of the first sort of original sort of like healing instruments that have been around. And it's just when you hear them all together, and like I said, they've got different types for ceremonies, and you know, some are more ethereal, so they're higher, and some are lower. But I mean, one of the most amazing instruments, and I've already have had a couple of preliminary discussions with some of the fabulous didgeridoo players over in Australia, hoping to get them. Yeah, but that's great. That's beautiful. It's got a good tone. Have you managed to get any sound out of it?
We'll leave that to the next interview. All right, gorgeous souls. Thank you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Tag Nareen, tag myself. I want to say so much, Nareen, so many thank you. We wish you all the best in this project. The first time I heard about your project, I just thought, wow, isn't she amazing and incredible? She is, ladies and gentlemen.
Aww.
So sending you so much love, and thank you for being here, Nareen.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.